Seahawks fans, wherever you may be. Thanks for listening to the show. Join your hosts, Bill Alvstad and Keith Myers, as we talk Seahawks football. Hi, Seahawks fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with co-host Keith Myers. We're here to talk Seahawks football. This is our last show in the draft prospect series that we have done this offseason, covering every position group as we head into the 2025 NFL draft. Today is the cornerback position. The last show we did safeties, cornerbacks today. I like this group, Keith, in general, as far as, if you need a starter at cornerback, you're going to be able to find one in the first 2 or 3 rounds in this draft. It's pretty deep through rounds. It drops off a little bit after that. There's definitely a shelf, but you're still going to get some quality players, either developmental prospects that can come in and potentially start for you down the road, or just really solid rotation type guys that are going to be your 4 or 5 corners on your roster and play some significant special team snaps. And so overall, I like the depth. I really like it at the top. Like, there's some hidden gems there in the first couple rounds where I think Seattle is going to pick a corner in the first 3 picks that they've got. I don't know why I think that. I just feel like this particular class lines up with what Mike McDonald likes to do. And there is a need there. It might not be right at the very surface, because they do have their 1, 2, 3 guys there on the roster. But if they think they can upgrade that position or get themselves in a position to move on from their 1 or 2 of their corners that they've got under contract this year, but not next, this could be the draft that they do it. Welcome in.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I mean, except for maybe the first 3 picks, I would say in the first 5 picks. Sometime before they get out of the 3rd round, I think Seattle's going to have a corner on their roster, and which is probably not a popular opinion, just simply because they need so much at wide receiver and offensive line, and you never have enough defensive linemen, and that kind of stuff. But corner is one of those where they went into last season with a ton of depth, and the depth sort of evaporated on them at times. Part of it was they traded Mike Jackson away, but the rest of a lot of the rest of the depth, disappeared, and now you've got guys that are gone. And so you've got 3 viable corners, 2 of which are in the last year of the deal. And then you've got Pritchett, who is a developmental guy who didn't show much of anything last year and has a long way to go between last year and getting on the field. So it's not a deep position. They need bodies. They need bodies who can play.
Yes.
So,
right. Yeah, they need a guy. I think they need a 4th corner that could develop into a number 2 guy, something like that. I think that would be ideal. The only reason I said out of the top 52, that the first 3 picks, is because when looking at this draft class, getting ready for this show, there are 3 or 4 guys I think Seattle's going to have on their board in that level. And if the draft falls a certain way, they could definitely go to the podium and select a corner. And I thought, given all the other position groups that we've talked about, where they're slotted in the draft and so forth, I think corner could be an early day 2 selection for them, because it lines up with the long-term need, the positional value, the player values, I think, that are available. There's a couple guys I think that we'll talk about that kind of align with what they like to do, and there's a little extra value built in because of a couple injuries with a couple of these guys that have kind of pushed them down the board a little bit, but they still have fringy day 1 value that I think that it could happen. It could happen. So anyway, I really want to. I know it's out of the realm of possibility for Seattle to do this, but Travis Hunter, the number one cornerback on almost everyone's board, I assume, also a wide receiver, out of Colorado, 6'1", 190 pounds, ran a 4.40. That doesn't even really matter with this guy because he's so good at what he does. I think he would be the number one wide receiver in this draft, as well as the number one corner in this draft. And he's likely to play a little of both in the NFL. Really set the record for the number of snaps taken in college football in a single season, like well over 1,000 snaps at two different positions, which is just crazy. He was just constantly on the field, helped his team, best player on the field almost every time he stepped on it. And he's going to be a significant contributor at the NFL level immediately, and just a special talent. Like I went out and watched some, I didn't watch any film on him because we're not going to really have a chance, right? But I did watch some highlights just to kind of see what it was all about, and just an amazing talent, rare processing speed, the ability to high point the ball. When he plays corner, he plays it like he's a wide receiver, like it's his ball, right? And so I see him as locking down one side of the field in the NFL, just because I don't think he's going to get challenged very much. Just a fun player to watch. After that, Keith, what do you got?
Well, after Travis Hunter, or do you want me to talk more about Travis Hunter?
Well,
I can.
If you want to contribute on Travis Hunter, by all means. He's just a fun player to talk about because there's so much there on both sides of the ball. I mean, we really didn't talk too much about him when we did wide receivers. Obviously, a little bit there at the top of the show, but as a corner, I see him being special in the NFL. Like as a wide receiver, he's going to be another guy, a playmaker for you. But at corner, this guy's a special prospect.
Yeah, to me, like when I was kind of researching all of this, I didn't spend a lot of time on him because he's going to go top 5 guaranteed. I'm surprised that people aren't just assuming he's the number 1 overall pick. It's not a quarterback. It's just weird to think that he wouldn't be. This guy is
well, Carter
Deion Sanders.
at the edge is definitely a guy that you would consider.
Yeah,
too.
But Travis Hunter is like Deion. He is like Deion Sanders coming back, and the guy that is just super athletic and does all those things, but is just also insanely good at everything, and
including school.
Yes,
like the guy had a 4.0 grade point average while doing all of this on the field stuff.
Yeah,
crazy.
Travis Hunter is proof that the genetics lottery is not fair to all of us, because the dude has everything. No, but he's going to be fantastic. I'm actually excited to see him play. Just him being in the NFL makes the NFL better and more fun. That's how good he is. So,
do you know he won the Heisman Trophy, the Bednarik Award as the top defensive player, and the Biletnikoff Award as the top receiver in the same season?
I didn't realize he'd. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me.
Unreal. That's unreal.
Just absolutely crazy.
Okay.
Behind him, there's a little drop off, but not much, to Will Johnson out of
I like Will Johnson
out of Michigan. His guy's another guy that, depending on positional need in the teams, could be a top 10 player. And he is long, he's fast, he's aggressive, tackles well, very good instincts in man coverage, and just in most years he would be the top corner on the board, and a guy that would go top 6, top 7. But this year he has Travis Hunter in it, so he gets pushed down a little bit, but not much. I mean, this is a very good player as well.
Agreed. Yeah, no, this is a good player with good traits and a good football player. I like the way that he uses his body. He's 6'2", 202 pounds, so he uses that length to his advantage really well, and it shows up on tape. You see a guy with the processing speed, the ability to be fluid in his back step, and his turns, staying in phase with wide receivers. He's versatile, so you can play him all over the field. I think it would be kind of an
Guy
ideal
his
fit.
size, the fact that he has the um, agility and coverage skills and the short area quickness to cover in the slot despite being 6'2"
Right,
is crazy. But he
right.
could totally do it.
I could see Seattle pounce on this guy for, if he's there. There's only so many blue chips right in this draft, and
Hmm.
we're on the fringy outside looking in kind of spot in the draft at 18. I could see Schneider fall in love with a prospect like this for Mike McDonald. Like Mike McDonald just going, is there any way? Is there any way we can get a guy like this on our team because he would truly make a difference? Then you figure out what it takes to kind of make that happen. And if it was a move up from 18 to 12, and it cost us a 92 overall pick, in a future fifth or something like that, to go up and get a guy, he would be on the short list, I think, of a guy that you would do that for,
Hmm.
at that positional value, the player itself, the guy that would come in and be a scheme diverse, which Mike McDonald is really looking for, to have like Witherspoon and Woolen and Johnson as your corners. Man, you would have the best or one of the best corner rooms in the entire NFL, and it just really solidify your back end. I think for a long time you could, I think, get a bargain contract if you wanted to in the future for Woolen. I think that the league values him, but I think that there's enough room there where Seattle could probably end up with a pretty decent contract with him, and you'd have your room, locked up for probably 4 or 5 years, easy, if this is the pick.
Yeah, I had a mock where things just fell and corner didn't go, and he was there at 18.
Mm,
And even though I had a completely different plan going in, I had to take him. He was there. Boom, take him. And then the rest of the draft fell in a completely different way that I'm used to because, well, I still need certain positions and
right.
that kind of stuff. And I'd taken a corner. But how could you not if he's
Yeah, well,
there?
it's hard because Seahawks fans, I can hear them right now. It'd just be like, oh my God, what a waste of pick, and blah 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 blah. It's not. It's frustrating because for months now, people have been telling you we need a guard, we need a center, we're going to address the defensive line or whatever it is, and so you've been focused, and rightly so, on draft needs lining up with certain players available at certain spots in the draft, and all of a sudden everything switched, just like that Witherspoon pick at 5 a couple of years ago.
Hmm.
Just kind of surprised a little bit. This would do the same sort of thing where it's like you just turn everything upside down, you get the best player available, and it's by a long shot. Somehow he's there for you. Um, don't be shocked if Seattle takes a player like this, maybe not this player, and just kind of turns the whole thing upside down because it just makes your team better. And that's what you're trying to do in the first round. Like the first round, you're really trying to get a player that is going to be on your roster for a long time, that's going to make the most impact. And this would qualify, I think. Okay.
Absolutely.
So after Will Johnson, there's a couple different options. Barron's there, the
Yeah,
cornerback
Jahadi
out of
Barron,
Texas. Yep.
5'11", 194. This is a guy that is really interesting to me because he's a little smaller, but he's so quick. I don't see him like he's got the long speed, but he's got a little bit of a buildup that's needed. I could see him uh, not being an outside corner all the time, and maybe doing what the Seahawks do with Witherspoon, and that's start him
Mm-hmm.
outside. But then, as soon as you go to the nickel, he goes into the slot, and someone else comes in to play the outside. Because I think that's where his talent really shines, is his ability to handle all of that short area stuff, and it allows him to use his processing speed and football IQ, and just do more with it rather than turning and running on every play. And so I think that uh, this is a guy great, does fantastic in zone coverage, just um, makes life incredibly difficult for opposing quarterbacks with his um, just smarts, and he knows where to be, and reads the field as far as what the different routes are doing, and kind of knows route combinations to the point where you can use what you see to anticipate what's going to happen next. And um, fun player. I would like this guy is a guy that he doesn't have the length, but as a slot corner, Pete Carroll would love him. Because of his zone coverage ability.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I like him. I like him a lot. I don't think that he's a great fit in Seattle simply because you've already got Spoon and Jobs. He's an upgrade on Job, but he does kind of the same thing Spoon does, and all of that. But basically, he's not quite like drafting Witherspoon, because Witherspoon can blitz and um,
I wouldn't put it past this guy to do that. He
set
just
the
wasn't
edge
it.
on the run, and he's just so good at everything. But
Yeah.
this guy does the cornerback things that Spoon does at a high level, and it's pretty easy to see this guy's going to be a first round pick, I think.
Uh, so here's another guy that I think is a possibility for Seattle, only in that he's great. He's a good football player. So he's
Mhm.
good at diagnosing and sticking in with wide receivers and playing a diverse skill set. You could put him on the outside. I think he's got the ability to do that. Certainly on the inside, he's got great recovery speed, great breaking off route type stuff. And he's super physical too. So at 5'11", 200 pounds, he's not really big, but he plays big. And he uses his length that he does have, his recovery speed, all that stuff to take advantage of different opportunities. And Seattle can move him around a little bit. I like the physicality aspect of his game because that's what we're really trying to do is be more physical. This guy would be check that box, and he's got good ball skills. So you combine all that stuff, he's going to be, if the intangible stuff checks all Seattle's boxes, I think the football part of it will check their boxes too, and he could definitely be on their board. I don't know where he goes though. So I don't know that he's at 18, but he's certainly a first round guy, right? So
Mhm.
he's going to be somewhere in the back end of the first round. And, if Seattle drops back because they don't like what they've got, and they identify, everyone from pick 20 to pick 50 is in the same grade area. This could be a guy that's on their list of players that they could select at, say, 25, for example. I think that would be a great value at that spot.
Yeah. I think if you're gonna pick a corner in that range, this next guy is the guy I would rather use the pick on.
Okay. So are we talking about Rovell?
Yes.
Yeah.
Siobhan Ravel Jr. Out of ECU. This is a guy that I think on our last mock draft show was part of my uh, group of players that I grabbed. This guy's a top 10, top 15 talent, right there with Will Johnson. He's 6'3", really long, but plays um, aggressive, plays smart, has way more short area quickness than you'd expect from a guy who's 6'3", plays incredibly physical. The reason why he's in this range, and a lot of people are thinking second round, is because he didn't play much this last year due
He
to
didn't
a
play at
torn
all.
ACL.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. He played like 3 games, 2 kind of preseason-y games, if you will,
Yep.
lower level competition through September. And then he tore his ACL. You're right. In practice, which sucks. Missed all of 2024. The 2023 tape, though, is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
54 tackles, 12 pass breakups. Just quality play. So he's got all the the tangible stuff, all the physical qualities, the agility, the processing, the length, right? And I like him. I really like him, and I think he's going to be one of those value players that's going to be available at the back end of the first, early second round. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know how Seattle gets there, or would take him or whatever. You'd have to really identify that this is the guy we want to come out of the draft with, kind of mentality, and go make it happen. I wouldn't. It's one of those things where I'd accept it if we stuck and pick at 18 and he was the pick. I would feel more comfortable if it was back into the first, or
Yeah.
we traded back up into the early second round to select, because if he was
Mm-hmm.
there at say 35 or 38, something like that, and we had to move 12 spots, and you just give up a the back end of the day 3 pick to do it, or even a fourth rounder, combo of some other combination, I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate it at all, because he's going to come in. That injury is last September. He's going to should be fully recovered to
Mm-hmm.
impact your team this year. And I think he's automatically becomes the second and no question third best corner on your roster.
Yeah.
You do it. You do it.
18 would be a little hard to.
It's hard because he had the injury. If he didn't have the injury,
Mm-hmm.
we probably wouldn't be able to have this conversation, because we wouldn't have access to the player.
Yeah, he'd
So
be
at
like
eight,
Will Johnson. He's going to be, right up there in the, round pick 10
so
or
let me
11.
ask you this, and this from doing this for so many years. Seattle does their homework. They do their injury stuff. They have their doctor check them out. They bring them in on a 30. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I'm sure they've talked to him, watched all the film, all that stuff. What if they, bring him in, they identify him, he's really a strong processor on the whiteboard, all that kind of stuff. His medicals check out. The tape he does have from 2023 is legit, and they take him at 18. Like, it's hard to do, but he represents such a potential high ceiling
Mm-hmm.
that you could justify it.
So the injury and the lack of 2024 tape, what that does is it generates variability. You see why we think that he would have been, top 10 player had without the injury, but you don't have the evidence of another year's tape to prove that it wasn't a flash in the pan kind of situation, because he's got 1 year of starting tape.
At East Carolina, by the way.
Yeah, he's got 1 year. So it's just it's variance, right? It's with Will Johnson, he's gonna be good. Like, the likelihood that you've screwed up his evaluation and that he's gonna end up being a bust is really low. With Rebel Jr., you've got there's just more unknown. It's more just from a pure probability standpoint, the bust potential is higher because of the injury and the lack of tape and all of that. I don't think that it drops him too far. I don't know if I would, if the team doesn't, if the team does something else at 18, and yeah, he drops into the 30s, and you want to move up from 50 to try and go get him, okay, go for it. I think more likely is that you move down off 18, you end up at 24, with another second round pick or a third round, something else in there, and then you pick him there just because you're like, you know what, let's not wait. Let's get him, because this guy can be a fixture on your defense for the next decade. Um, and you deal with you know,
The
the
shakeout after that. Yeah.
yeah, you'll see what happens as far as the rest of the draft, but also where his career goes. So it is interesting. Man, he's a guy that I would target. I would go after.
It seems like a pick that John Schneider would have identified and made during the Seahawks Super Bowl runs, because you're picking at the back end of the first round and you're looking for a gem and value and serious ceiling upside in a constant draft position of being late first round year after
Mm-hmm.
year. And, so guys like this are very appealing because their value is top 10, top 15, but you're picking them at top 30. And so you're looking for long-term value here. And I think that's what this represents. And so it is one of those picks that if all the medicals check out, everything else checks out, and his intangibles are off the chart, it wouldn't shock me. This is one of those players where, somebody could go to pound the table for this guy and it could happen. That's why I said, at the earlier that I was thinking it's going to be interesting for Seattle. And I thought they're going to come out of this draft with a corner in the top 52 after looking at this draft. And this is one of the guys I was thinking about when I said that, because the upside value, the ceiling value could be so high that John Schneider can't not make the pick. I don't know.
This guy instantly, day one, makes Tariq Woolen. It just puts him on notice. It doesn't
it's a
make
Tariq Woolen hedge for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he could come in. He could take Tariq Woolen's job, and the Seahawks would be fine.
I wouldn't bat an eye if that happened.
Now, ideally, you'd want Tariq Woolen to establish himself and play good enough that he doesn't lose his job to a guy like Revel Jr. And Revel Jr.'s got to come on as the third corner and push Spoon inside. And at least for this rookie year, and because that's just means you're getting more out of the players that are currently on your roster. But if Woolen continues to be up and down and has those off moments, get the kid in there and let the kid play, because he's good enough. He could absolutely step in and do anything that Tariq Woolen does.
So for me, at this point in the draft, there is a little bit of a ledge. So to me, that's the first round talent. That's the elite talent. I think, you can say what you want about Revel as far as being ready right now and not being able to work out for teams and all that stuff. And that's why his value is down. But his talent level is middle of the first round.
Mm-hmm.
After this, we get into the second and third round guys. Keith, Benjamin Morris, I think, is the first guy on that list for me. Notre Dame corner, 6 foot, 190 pounds, very nice straight line speed at 4.39. He's young, just turned 20 a month ago. He's good production wise, and just a solid prospect overall. Yesterday we mentioned, I think, a corner that was, or a safety from Notre Dame that was the best player on their team, and he was definitely the second best player, I think, in their secondary, and just a solid player overall. Nothing really exciting, but he does everything pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, just you were saying like there's a shelf. There is. You've got like 4 guys that are first round, and then there's like a 20 pick gap where they're just no one's grade kind of fits into that, and then you start picking up. And this is that next guy. This is a guy that, is he going to be a superstar corner? I don't think so, but he's going to be a damn good second corner on any roster.
Agreed.
And he's just, the talent's there, the production's there, the route recognition is there. His tape's really good. I think
there's a general manager out there that may value his skill set higher than we think. This is a guy that could go earlier on the second day,
maybe,
just because of the positional value, and he's the first one in that second tier that you're going to want to get, and a team may make this selection earlier than I think we think, in the 30s somewhere. Because he does everything
out on
really
one of the
well.
top 4 guys, and you're really looking to get a corner out of this draft, he's going to be the next guy that you target and be like, let's go get him. Let's trade up if we need to. to get a guy that can come in and, like I said, maybe not be a superstar, but be really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Thomas from Florida State? 6'1", 191, 4'5", 40. Went to the Senior Bowl, had a solid week. He's still young, under 21 years old. He's got the length that you're looking for, with the arm length, and just kind of Florida State wasn't a great team. I didn't think. I mean, they had a decent record this year, but there were certain things that held them back. I think that their defense was not great, but he was a standout on that defense. And he's just got a really nice combination of skill set that you're looking for, and the physicality, and the ability to be scheme diverse, because of his agility. And so
I was going to
I
say
wouldn't hate this pick if Seattle
I
made this
don't
pick
think
at
he's
50.
scheme diverse.
You really don't? I do. The only reason I do is because I think he's got that quick twitch, and he's got the length to play outside if you need him to, but also
But he
he's
doesn't
got
have the
that
speed.
4.5. What was it? 4.5.
His 40
Yeah.
time is in the 19th percentile. 19th.
Okay.
And his short shuttle for his short area quickness is the 39th. And so to me, he's a you watch his tape, and there is a lot to like. I think the projection into the NFL is he's a guy that needs to be in a zone scheme, a heavy zone scheme as an outside corner. Pete Carroll in Las Vegas would be a great fit because this guy's outside corner there, where that length, his ability to cover the deep third of the field, and, in a cover three, perfect fit. Great to draft him. Go have fun. He'll be great for you. But I think if you're trying to play a lot of man coverage, you want him up and press, where he's got to turn and run. I think that the lack of speed, is going to give him a lot of problems, and
Who
that's
was
why
the
I
kid that
think
we
he's a
traded
zone.
last year that you mentioned earlier?
Mike Jackson.
Yeah. So it's kind of a Mike Jackson guy.
Yeah,
Only
absolutely. Same.
not quite as big. Not quite as big, but same length.
Yeah, same length, 6'2" or 6'1" and change. Um, Not quite as big. Maybe not quite as a sure tackler as Mike Jackson, but not bad. I mean, he's a physical player. A little handsy at times, but really, that's more on just double moves. Like, he'll be patient for the first move, but then when the second move happens, he'll grab on. But
So I have
that's
a
a
question for
technique
you.
thing. But
So if he's so slow and his tackling is so suspect, and I think it
I don't say
is,
I don't think it's that suspect. It's not bad. It's just not
why is he up, in the early to mid second round area of this draft?
because if you're a zone coverage team, he's a boundary corner that you can do a lot of good things with. If you play cover 2 or cover 3, this guy's going to be great. He just he's not scheme diverse. I don't want him um, in a man coverage scheme where you're expecting him to turn and run and keep up with um, elite wide receivers. They're going to run away from him.
I think this guy, to me on a big board, I think he's slightly overvalued just because of a few different traits, but I think he ends up getting pushed into like the early third round.
Yeah, that would be pick him in like 64, 65. Like, that would be a value pick. And the only reason I think he's that low and not up in, like, the late 40s, early 50s is because teams that play a lot of man coverage aren't going to be interested. And so by having the pool of teams that are interested based on scheme being smaller, it's going to push him down a little bit.
So let's talk about teams that are interested in man coverage and a player that might be ideal for them in Trey Amos.
Trey Amos, yeah. There's the guy that if the Seahawks are in that range, you're gonna pick a guy at 52. or 50, whatever, same thing. And you're looking for a guy that could come in and play and do everything that you want a corner to do in Seattle's scheme. Trey Omas is the guy that I'm thinking of, because great at man coverage skills. Doesn't necessarily have, all the length in terms of his arm length and that kind of stuff, but is 40 times there. All of the agility stuff's there, plays physical, gets his hands on guys, um,
Solid
and
tackler.
and
Yep.
pushes them around, like good in press coverage. Um, Smart in terms of his coming out of his back pedal and when to turn and what and go and follow and that kind of stuff. Just a natural um a natural man corner, just natural at it and really good. And I love that in Seattle scheme.
Yeah, solid production, tackles for loss, pass breakups, not too many interceptions, but he knows how to play the ball. His technique on press coverage is solid. Good strength there at the line of scrimmage. Good solid tackler. You mentioned the physicality. I like that about him as well. And the ball skills, just breaking up passes and being in on getting that stuff done is solid. I like him. He's super athletic as far as his burst, and recovery speed, but his agility is, it is what it is. He's probably not going to play a lot of nickel for you.
Yeah, he's not going to come inside. He's a boundary corner. But I think he can be a good boundary corner. I like him out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not a nickel. But you're not going to ask him to be a nickel.
So who would you ask to be a nickel in this draft? This next guy, maybe
Maxwell Hairston.
Hairston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a guy that if you really need a nickel, someone that can come in and can cover the smaller, highly agile, short area quickness kind of guys, this is your man. I mean, granted, his 40 time is at 4.28 is crazy fast. But
I don't have him that quick.
Oh, I'm looking at.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I had him for some reason. I had him at 4.48, but I am reading now that he is at 4.28. He was the fastest guy at the combine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
His vert, his broad jump, those kind of things are explosive. They're, and his 40 time is absolutely elite. But he's 5'11". He's only 183. He doesn't look like he has the frame to add a bunch of weight and get bigger. So he's not ever going to be a super physical tackler in the run game and that kind of stuff. But his short area quickness is crazy good. And he can cover anybody on the inside. And with that speed, he can cover anyone deep. So you need someone who can match up against the Jalen Waddles of the world. This is your guy.
Yeah. So when I was thinking about, leaving the draft with a corner in the first 3 picks, this is another guy that I was thinking about for Seattle at say 50 or 52. Depending on what Seattle wants to come out of the draft with a corner as far as scheme fit. Obviously this guy isn't going to be a boundary guy, but he could still be scheme diverse with you in a free safety cornerback combo type scheme fit, where he could play, dime nickel for you, as well as just move around on the back end in a 2 high safety thing, scheme diversity as far as moving guys around. He could play back for you. He's got that recovery speed. He's got the physicality that you want, the swagger, the change of direction stuff, the ball skills. So this is one of the guys that I could see Mike McDonald and their secondary guys really like out of this draft. And I wouldn't be surprised about this pick. It's not, it's not as sexy as some of those guys that are 6'2", 200 pounds. You want those guys on your team, but we've got Woolen. uh, it wouldn't surprise me if they draft another kind of Woolen type cornerback, but we haven't seen, I don't think, Mike McDonald's system long enough to know exactly what his prototype is. Maybe he
I
doesn't
don't think
want
he
a guy like
I don't think
Woolen.
he has a true prototype. I think he is a guy that give me good football players that can handle man coverage, and I don't care. And like basically that's kind of his prototype because he'll alter some of the little things that they do to take advantage of the skill set that the individual player has.
So you said
Um,
man coverage. This guy's like a really solid level zone guy primarily. What's the difference there?
well, he played a lot of zone in college, and so um, that's what you look at him and you're like, okay, that's what he did, that's what he knows, that's what your evaluation is. But I look at all his physical attributes, and I go, this guy can cover anyone. Um, and then you go watch what
Yeah.
he had to do in his zones. And a lot of it was, yeah, he didn't have an assigned person where he was up on the line of scrimmage in press coverage and he stayed with someone. He would pick up someone as they would come into his part of the field, but then cover them as if he had been in man coverage the whole time, and follow them through the zone and sometimes out of the zone, depending on what else was going on around him. So you see him do a lot of elite man coverage things anyway. I just think that I think this guy fits what Seattle wants to do. I
To
think
me,
you bring
he's the
him in.
last. Go ahead.
I'd say um, he's the guy that if you could find the ideal person to be a massive upgrade over Josh Jobe, this would be him.
Yeah.
He would take. Jobe is a good player. He proved himself last year. This would be a massive upgrade, and which is unfortunate for Jobe because I think he deserves to be on the field. But yeah, that's that. This is who that's the kind of player. But it would be
Yeah,
just
if you
much
wanted
better.
to, move around and kind of have chess pieces where you've got Kobe Bryant and Jarek Reed and Josh Jobe and Pritchett, and then you would have Harrison. These are all kind of interchangeable parts to me, where they're all fluid and they move around, and you can do a lot of different things. And really, what you're trying to do is get Witherspoon to be able to be almost anything at any moment
Hmm.
on your defense, where he can just be the jack of all trades guy. He already is, but this type of pick gives them even more flexibility to kind of make Witherspoon available more on the outside if they wanted him to be, and all that kind of stuff. And then after that, I think there's there's another little shelf,
Yeah,
talent
there
wise
is.
in this draft. What's your next guy that you want to talk about?
My next guy would be Darian Porter, out of Iowa State. Um, this guy is interesting to me because six
Me too.
four or six
Uh,
three, depending on I think he was 6'3" at the combine. Um, but that length, and then you look at the speed that he's got with 4.30 speed. That's right there. So he's got length, he's got straight line speed, and then you're like, oh well, he's tall and fast. He's going to be a straight line guy. You look at his three cone at 6'7" and you're like, wait, what?
he had a
4.04 in the
149
short shuttle.
149 10 yard split, dude.
Uh,
That's
this
elite.
this guy has got elite athleticism across the board. Even it's like broad jumping it at 131 is crazy. It's 94th percentile. So this guy's explosive. He's long. He's very agile. Despite being 6'3". Um, I you have to like what you see on them. Um, he will be 25, I think, in September is the concern. Um, and
That is the concern.
he's got some worry in terms of like when he gets into position, his tackling leaves a more than a bit to be desired at times. But yeah, he's also really good at covered skills, but when you look at teams run towards him, he can be very late in recognizing and coming up and filling um, his job as an outside run defender and setting the edge and pushing the run play back into your linebackers. Um, because his mind and everything is on coverage. That's who he is. But in the NFL, you got to be able to see what's going on and make that transition to being a run defender. And he's a little slow at it. Again, with the right system and a cover three like Pete Carroll's, God, this guy. How
It's
could
funny.
you want anything else other than you would want a guy that would tackle a little better, but damn, Pete Carroll's
Well,
gonna like be drooling at this
if
guy.
if I was Pete Carroll, I would have hoped that this guy was 21 years old. That
True.
would have been my hope. But that's the rub really with this prospect is the age, because he does need a little bit more development. But he's already 24 years old. He'll be 25, as you said. But the upside is there. I mean, the length, 33 and a quarter inch arms, the speed, 4.3, former wide receiver. He's got the ball skills. He's only, on GPS, he's the second fastest prospect, GPS tracking, since Tariq Woolen at the Senior Bowl. And that's kind of why he comps to Tariq Woolen a little bit. Just kind of going to be available in the same range in the draft.
Long, fast, and doesn't tackle well.
Right. Yes. And so, I think he's going to be your third wide receiver, or not wide receiver, corner on your roster. And you just kind of have to figure out where he lines up as far as coming in on subsets and making that adjustment in the NFL. He's going to need a season to figure it out, I think. Now,
and it's hard to say he's going to need a season when he's already 25.
Exactly. And that's why he's at this point in the draft where he's going to be fringy. Well, he's going to go in the third round, I think, just based on traits. But
yeah.
Do you take him? Like if you're in Seattle, do you take him at 82 or 92?
No.
I'm not so sure.
No, I don't. I would rather pass and wait another round and then go get a guy like Cy Alexander out of LSU.
Or Denzel Burke out of
Ohio State.
Yeah, I like those two prospects.
Or even if I wanted, you could wait a little bit longer and take Dorian Strong out of Virginia Tech. I would rather have any of those guys over Porter in Seattle's system.
Okay, I agree. So let's talk about Cy Alexander.
That pause there makes me think that maybe you don't like Dorian Strong.
Yeah. No, I do. I think there's definite upside there. He's got the agility. He's got the agility that some of these other players don't. I like his value, special teams quality, the length, the ball skills that you like to have in a corner at this range in the draft. Little less length than I would like to see, but also makes up for it with speed and just those ball skills. 4.42 speed, 6'1", a little undersized at 180.
To me,
he's not my favorite player on tape. Like when you watch him, I think he's
pure
okay.
nickel corner in the NFL.
Yeah.
And really what he is he's pure nickel corner that, you're going to have to, he needs some experience working on the inside. Drafting him is like drafting Kobe Bryant the year that they did. Now, I don't think this guy converts to safety the way Kobe Bryant did, but a guy that's going to eventually be a decent nickel. But there might be
if you're going to draft Dorian Strong, I think that, if you're Seattle, and I think they have, I think you consider Kobe Bryant. Now we'll come back to the players we just passed over a little bit, but Kobe Bryant has confirmed meeting with Seattle already. Kobe is COBEE Bryant. If we drafted him, we'd have to give him a nickname or something.
If we can't, you can't have two Kobe Bryants
In the secondary.
in the secondary of Seattle's defense. That's just mean to those of us that are trying to figure out, like, cover the team and figure out what's going on. Like, that is not okay, Seattle.
Yeah, I like the prospect Kobe Bryant in this draft better than Dorian Strong. If I'm going to choose that sort of corner in this draft, although Kobe Bryant is slightly undersized at 171 and 5'11", he's a little quicker. He's a little longer in his arm length to make up for the short stature. He's more productive at the actual, playing football. And I like
college interceptions over the 2 years.
Yeah.
2.5.
And the combination of experience too at playing at all different spots, zone coverage and man and all that stuff. I think that he's a guy that with a little bit more upside to me.
No, I'd agree with that.
So we kind of bypass Zy Alexander and Denzel Burke a little bit. I do like those prospects in Seattle's scheme.
I would agree. These are early day 3 corners. Would you agree? Fourth round kind of guys?
Let's see. Let me count my draft picks. Yes. So that would be early 4th round. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree. I think that, Denzel Burke is more of the press man guy. At 6'1", 193, he's got okay speed. It's not great, 4'5". He's good in zone as well, and good solid tackler, like a wrap up guy. And he comes from Ohio State, right? He's got that experience, the good solid recruit guy early in his career out of high school. So he's got that kind of pedigree that you're looking for. Plays special teams, all that kind of stuff. Zy Alexander to me is similar, but slightly shorter in length.
Yeah. I mean, they are very similar players. I think that Alexander has a slightly higher ceiling, but he comes in slightly less ready to contribute on day one.
Okay.
And so, but they're very similar players. They really are. And one of the things I like
Zy Alexander for tackling, like supporting, run defense and all that kind of stuff. I think he's really solid at that. He could contribute right away.
I think both of them can. They both are physical, good tacklers. I think they can come up and assist in run defense on runs to the outside on their side of the field. I don't know. Neither of the guys have the speed that I want in an outside corner in this scheme, but you could do far worse.
Good football players, and good special teams guys. I mean, they're going to be good special teams guys. Good. It really depends on like what you're looking for. Like, I think that Zy Alexander is maybe slightly more of a Mike McDonald guy, but I like the upside of Burke just because the Ohio State thing. That there's just something there as far as just being a solid football player. But Zy Alexander has that swagger, that physicality that is hard to find in this range of the draft, I think. And maybe he's just too small to be a box guy all the time. I don't know.
One other thing is I can't find an age for Zy Alexander.
Let me see if I've got it.
I just realized that's one of the things I don't have.
5 years, 5th year senior. So he's got to be probably approaching at least 24 years old.
Yeah, he's probably 23 now, whereas Burke is 22. So
yeah, those would be, I would consider that. Kobe Bryant, again, pick your flavor in this range of the draft. I wouldn't this would be a good solid pick. How about
The only
well,
other guy that I've got notes on for today's show is Jacob Parrish.
okay,
This guy is tiny. Um,
not that tiny. He's 5'10". I got him 196.
Well, I've got him at 5'10", 191. The 5'10", you just look at him on, in his tape, and the 5'10" feels like it's in cleats. But the 191, he's solidly built. And that 4.35 speed it's really nice. Especially with his 10-yard split of 151, but it's that arm length of 30 and 7/8. That is a 75-inch wingspan. A combination of just he's not long, but he's got that great speed, explosive athlete in terms of, if you look at his vert and broad jump and those things. To me, he's intriguing. I want to see, can this guy return kicks? Because with that speed, size, his agility, um, I think that he could be a natural kick returner. And then you put him out on the field, and he plays really smart. Doesn't get fooled by misdirection things, keeps his leverage really well, when playing, doesn't let guys get across his body, and that kind of stuff. He's just small. And so, um, but I like what I see in him. Um, I think he's going to have a nice career at the next level. The one thing, looking at his college like stats and stuff, one interception has me worried. And I think that might have to do with just the lack of length. And so the receivers are able to get around him or whatever to at least knock the ball away from him so he can't take it and go. But plays physical, tackles well. Like,
Yeah,
I like him.
yeah.
He's just, when you watch his tape, the thing that you notice is like, wow, this guy's not a big dude.
I've got, like Quincy Riley would be another guy, 5'11", 194, 4.48 speed out of Louisville. Kind of a nickel corner, but also has some skill set that you could eventually see him taking some snaps on the outside as well. With the ball skills, and just a solid tackler and a good player. Tommy Hill is a bigger guy, 6', 210, slower, but has the length to be a press guy. Noel Williams, another guy like that, but below average athleticism. Jordan Hancock is a guy like 6'1", 195, ran a 4.4, 5.40. Maybe a guy that you could look at transitioning or scheme diverse wise, be a free safety potentially. These are guys that are going to be available on day 3,
All of them,
fifth, sixth round now type guys. But I like him because of the upside. Just a guy that needs a little bit more time in a system. What else? There was one other guy that I wanted to talk about. Oh, Jason Marshall Jr. This is a guy that you take a flyer on in the 7th round, or a priority undrafted guy, 6', 194 pounds, from Florida, around a 4.49 40. I like him for his length and so forth on the boundary. He really does a great job already in press man coverage, but struggles with a lot of everything else. So he needs time. But I like it. I like him as a kind of a prospect that you could potentially develop, because he's got a little bit of everything that you want, a little bit of ball skills, the technique, all that kind of stuff. He just needs a little bit more time.
Yeah, needs a lot of technique refinement. And the one concern that I have written down is that taking angles to ball carriers, his natural angles leave him behind instead of out in front, and so definitely needs to work on that. But yeah, it's just raw. A guy who's raw, that has the stuff to develop into something good, just needs an opportunity to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So overall, what did you think of this class? I mean, you've got certain tiers
Mm-hmm.
of certain players. We've already established that Seattle has a need,
Yeah.
albeit maybe secondary
Mm-hmm.
to other needs on the roster. Where do you think
There
Seattle?
is a lot to like in this draft.
Yeah,
In terms of for Seattle, there's the guys at the top of the draft. There's guys in round 2. There's guys in round 3. There's guys in round 4, and there's projects you could take down in 5, 6, 7. It, the depth is interesting. There's a lot of highly athletic people with some speed, and even if their um, tools need a lot of work, I don't know. I this is a good class of corner um, overall. Like sometimes like when we look at the safeties, there was a good group of about 8 guys, maybe 7 guys, and then after that it fell off really quick. Whereas this, it the in at corner, the list just keeps going. Now these aren't like elite, instant starter kind of guys, but they're guys that can come in and contribute. They can get on the field and play. They're not just special teamers. Um, but it's a much deeper class, and I I don't know. I like this group. I think that Seattle does need one. They've only got 3 viable corners that we know of on the roster, with Pritchett being the question mark. But 2 of those guys are in the final year of their contract. You've got to start thinking ahead. And if you can get a guy like Revel Jr., um, or even like Benjamin Morris, you got to think about it. You got to like, okay, let's, or Maxwell Hairston to come in and um, uh, eventually replace Josh Jobe at the slot role. You got to think about it doing it because you need depth at the position, and you need um, to project forward a year. When are you going to pay Tariq Woolen? I don't think you do. You need to have another plan. Um, and yeah, I think that this is a year where they're going to get a corner, and it's not going to be a 6th round guy because they need someone who can play this year.
I think that you pay Tariq Woolen if you're going to pay him top 30 money, but not top 10 money.
Yeah.
Now, somebody values Tariq Woolen a little bit more. I mean, if you go look at the PFF grades, all that kind of stuff, just general perception, not just PFF grades, but he grades out pretty well,
He does.
and we kind of are hard on him because we saw that rookie season
Mhm.
and we know the upside, and we thought maybe Mike McDonald could get it out of him every play. And I think the rub is that he doesn't focus on every play. He takes some plays off. He could play the run a little bit more physical, and especially you've got a coach that's asking him to, and he's just not able. I think he's protecting himself because I think maybe he thinks he's injury prone a little bit and susceptible to that, and I'd like to see him become more of a wrap up tackler at a minimum.
Mhm.
Like, I think that, you don't necessarily have to be a physical, knock somebody over with your shoulder guy, which I think is where he gets in trouble physically. But if you could teach him, some really nice wrap up tackling technique, I think that would be good enough for me. And I think good enough for the team. And you could give him another contract, but I think he's going to end up, if he plays like the way he's played, I think he's going to end up with a 1-year contract somewhere, whether it's with Seattle or whether it's somebody else. But you're right. As far as everything else you said, as far as adding a player out of this draft to be able to come in, and the nice thing about the cornerback position, usually if you get a guy that's, top 3 or 4 rounds, you're going to get a guy that's going to contribute right away um, with some good coaching, which we have. So to me, I think this would be an ideal opportunity if Revel is there somehow, some way in the late 30s, early 40s, and Seattle moves up for him.
Mhm.
To me, that would be a player that I would move up for. There's a couple other ones, maybe a tight end, maybe an edge rusher, or defensive tackle, offensive lineman to move up for. But I think cornerback would be in that list as well, and he would be a player.
Yeah.
Harrison's another guy that I could see Seattle taking at 50, 52, that where they don't have to expend any capital. They just select best player available, and he's the guy. Yeah, lots of fun in this draft class, and a lot of different flavors, a lot of guys that can do a lot of different things, which is really, ideal for what Mike McDonald wants to do. So wouldn't surprise me, again, like I said, for Seattle to come out of the draft in the top 3 picks with one.
So our series on draft prospects is now completed.
Yeah.
If you listeners are hoping that we're going to have one on specialists, we're not, because he punts well. Does not make for an entertaining show.
Look at that technique.
For us to say that over and over again. And so we're I think we're done with this, and the draft is coming up about a week and a half away.
I was thinking a good idea for another show, prior to the draft. Next week, we'll have some previews about the draft and all that kind of stuff. But prior to the draft, maybe consolidating our shows down to, top 3 or 4 prospects at every position where, Seattle will be focusing. I think that's a good idea, because right now we're really kind of narrowing this thing down. This is fun. Draft is officially, we're within 2 weeks, and it'll be fun.
About a week and a half until draft day, and that's awesome. Fun time of year. Fun time of year, definitely.
Yeah, anytime you can add 10 players to your roster with 4 or 5 of them in the top 100 at a minimum, it's going to be a good day. It's going to be fun, unless, of course, Seahawks blow it and draft a whole bunch of players we've never heard of and don't project well on the roster, and it's a complete chaotic draft. But I don't see that. I mean, when you go look and do the mocks and you're trying to figure out Seattle's draft plan, it's really hard to screw this thing up when you have so much draft capital early in the draft. It's just a matter of who they select first, which kind of dictates everything else. And so it'll be fun. All right, let's get out of here. Find Keith on Blue Sky at Myers NFL. You can find me at NW Seahawk. The show is Seahawks Playbook Podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform, our YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button when you do. Share it, like it, leave a comment. We always enjoy those. So until next time, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook Podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NW Seahawk, Keith is at Myers NFL, and the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.